Now I have to tell you, I think I may have done Tante Odette a little injustice. She seemed not quite as capable as she was, but you see, Tante Odette was more than capable. In fact, she lived on the outskirts of the village in a little whitewashed house. She kept a few animals in the barn and the back. As I mentioned before, she had her gray cat Shoo Shoo for company. And it's not that she didn't like her neighbors. Well, that's not exactly true. There is one neighbor she didn't like, Renee Acret. She could not abide Renee Acret. Renee was just a slap-happy walk around, talking to birds and bushes, and a ne'er-do-well as far as she was concerned, and she didn't want any part of him. But for the rest of the neighbors, she always had a good morning and a how do you do. But mostly, she just liked to spend her time with Shoo Shoo. Well, all this changed early one Tuesday morning when she got up really early to bake the bread that she liked so much with her soup. And she got up, and she had loaves rising in the pantry. And she went out into the yard where she had a very large wood-burning oven. And she went out, and she had an armload of wood, just like this. And she went out, and she set it right there beside the oven. Well, she noticed that the door was open. So she thought, well, maybe some twigs and leaves fell in. So she picked up a stick, poked around just to make sure there was nothing in there. But it was blocked. So she peeked inside, and what she saw turned her blood cold. She quickly closed the door, and she ran over across the road to the farm of Albie Roberge. Now, Albie was just feeding his chickens, and she arrived, and she said, Albie, come quick! There's a skunk in my oven! Albie turned around. Tante Odette, maybe it was just your cat Shoo Shoo. Shoo Shoo? Is Shoo Shoo black? Does Shoo Shoo have a white stripe up her back? No. Let me tell you how it happened. I got up early this morning to bake bread. I carried an armload of wood, just like this, out into the yard. I set it right there beside the oven. I noticed the door was open, so I poke around inside, and it was blocked. There was a skunk in my oven! Okay, Tante Odette, let me just finish with the chickens. I'll be right over. Well, Tante Odette, she turned around and walked to the road. And as she was walking, she said, you know, if 2 heads are better than 1 for solving a problem like this, then 3 heads are better than 2. So she made her way to the next farm, which belonged to Jean Dabadi. And she walked in, she goes, Jean, come quick! There's a skunk in my oven! Tante Odette, maybe it's just an old rag or an old fur coat or something you threw away. Am I such a spendthrift? Believe you me, if he'd used his weapon, you wouldn't be asking me if he was a skunk. No, let me tell you how it happened. I got up early this morning. Put the bread on in the oven, in the pantry to raise. I picked up an armload of wood, just like this. I walk out, I put it right beside the oven. I see the doors open, so I pick up the stick. I poke around to make sure there are no leaves or twigs. It's blocked. I look inside. There was a skunk in my oven. There's a skunk in my oven! Okay, Tante Odette, okay. Just let me finish. I'm fixing the wagon wheel here. As soon as I'm done, I'll be right over. Well, as Tante Odette walked to the road, she couldn't help but think how dim-witted her neighbors were so early in the morning. You know, they were almost as bad as that Renee Acret. Well, her next stop was the farm of Albert Robial. Now, Albert, he was just coming out of the house, followed by his 4 daughters. They were going to clean the barn. And Tante Odette, she arrived. She said, Albert, come quick! There's a skunk in my oven! Oh, Tante Odette, maybe you just saw your own shadow. My shadow? Does my shadow have a big fluffy tail? Does my shadow have white teeth that gnash at you or beady black eyes that stare at you? No, let me tell you how it happened. I got up early this morning to bake bread. I picked up an armload of wood, just like this. I walk out into the yard. I put the wood right there, right beside the oven. I see the doors open, so I pick up a stick. I poke around to make sure it's not blocked by twigs or leaves. I look inside. There was a skunk in my oven. Okay, Tante Odette, we're coming right away. So she turned around and she went home. And you know, every person she ran into on the road, she told them the story. So by the time she got home, droves of people had arrived. And the first was Albie Roberge. And Albie, he went over to the oven and he peeked inside. And he turned around, he said to the crowd that had gathered, "I would like you all to know there's a skunk in Tonto Odette's oven." And right behind him, of course, was Jean Labadie. "Yes, everybody, I'd like you to know he's right, there is a skunk in Tonto Odette's oven." Well, the people had arrived in pairs and threes and fours, and everybody had to have his and her turn looking in the oven to make sure that the unwanted guest was in fact a skunk. Well, once everybody had looked, they had to come up with a solution. The first to come up with an idea was Jean Labadie. He said, "I'm going to get a gun and shoot it." And Tonto Odette said, "Oh, no, you're not. Nobody's going to shoot a skunk in my oven." And they agreed that was probably not a good idea. She might not be able to bake in there for a month, maybe never. Well, the eldest daughter of André Robillard, she had an idea. She said, "What if we get a dog, somebody's dog we bring in, and we scare it out?" And again, Tonto Odette said, no, nobody's going to scare a skunk in my oven. And they all had to agree that the effects would probably be odoriferous. Well, somebody else had an idea. Let's coax the skunk out. Let's put a little piece of meat on a string, we'll put it in, and we'll coax him out. Tonto Odette, she said, "Well, I don't have any meat, and if I did, I wouldn't give it to a skunk." Well, nobody else wanted to donate any meat to this little plan, so that idea just went off the way. Well, there they all stood. Now, at this point, it was clear that Tonto Odette was not going to serve any drink or food. And everybody was starting to think about all the things that they had to do back at their own farms. And they were scratching their heads, and it seemed the only person who remembered why they were there was Tonto Odette. "What are we going to do about my oven?" Well, just then, who should come walking down the road? René Egret. And when he saw the crowd, he said, good. Maybe so they're going to have some food or something to drink. And he made his way over. And as soon as Tonto Odette saw him, she just gave him a look. And then, all of a sudden, she realized, wait a second. They say he can talk to the birds and the beasts. If anybody can get a skunk out, it's going to be him. So she ran over and she said, René, there's a skunk in my oven. Can you get him out without scaring him?" René, he just nodded yes. You know, he was the only person that day who didn't question Tonto Odette whether she was telling the truth or not. Well, Tonto Odette, she looked at him. And she looked at him. "We'll do something!" René, he just nodded again. And he walked over to the skunk, over to the oven. He opened the door, and he stuck his head in, and he started to talk. Now, nobody could hear what he was saying, but they were all listening, and they waited. Well, it wasn't very long before he pulled his head out, and he opened the door up completely. And seconds later, who comes walking out, nose up in the air, tail just as high, walking straight towards the crowd? The skunk. Well, the crowd separated. It was like watching Moses part the Red Sea. Everybody gave birth. And that skunk walked straight to the tree line and disappeared into the forest. Well, everyone just stared. They looked at René. "René, what happened? What did you say?" Well, René, he wasn't used to this kind of attention. He said, "I just told the truth." "Yes, but René, what happened? What truth? What did you say, René?" He said, "Well, I told that skunk if he stayed in that oven much longer, he was going to start to smell like Tonto Odette's bread. And if he did, none of the other skunks would want anything to do with him." Well, that was all it took. Everybody started laughing, except Tonto Odette. She was turned her back and walked straight into the house. But I'll tell you something. You let Tonto Odette say what she will about René Egret, but ever since that day, no skunk has gone anywhere near Tonto Odette's oven.